Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. Ours is a place where dreams take flight, voices are heard, and stories are shared. This is where cultures meet, connections are formed, and ideas are transformed into action. This is your destination for authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations. We're where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover our world of education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our USA Global TV channel and download our USA Global TV app. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. With heartfelt thanks to our executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, music scored by Yifei Tang from Cloud Road Music, creative direction by Paul Garcia, and I'm Al Cini, and I'm very proud to be part of the USA Global TV and Radio family. So join us here at USA Global TV and Radio. Make us your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication, or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited. Thank you for being a part of our global community. Let's inspire together.
Howdy y'all, red.olaughlin here. We're on The Wise Ones. You can see the owls behind me. Wisdom, we're talking about that today. The Wise Ones on USA Global TV and Radio Network. When I'm not doing TV shows, I'm doing 3 back-to-back today. We just finished one. We're doing this one. I have one more to do immediately following. But I like to research the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem. Treat symptoms, and you'll always be treating symptoms. So I focus on that aspect. What is happening? Why is it happening? What can you do about it? So that's what I do when I'm not doing a whole lot of other things. But the other things that I do, I help authors get their books written. I publish books for people, maybe 50 books so far for other authors. And when I'm not doing that, I love to cook and garden and do a few other things. But all in all, I enjoy life as best I can. That is a quick wrap up on me. Why don't we jump into our program today? My guest is Lynda Williams from Calgary, Canada. Lynda, please join me up here on stage.
Hi, how are you doing today?
Exceptionally well, as always. How's the weather up in Canada? Because it just seems like here in Texas, where I'm in the Houston area, we got our first cold blast. And last night, the temperatures were low 50s, I think. I mean, it's just, the winter is starting to show up. So what's going on up there in your world?
We have been spoiled rotten. We haven't had any snow, which often does happen for us in October. So yeah, I'm waiting for the leaves on the apple tree to finish dropping, and they're just hanging on.
No, I'm waiting for the leaves on my plumerias, tropical plants usually found in Hawaii and other places, to start turning yellow because they drop generally around Thanksgiving. But then I take them out of the ground, store them in the garage over the winter, because we do end up occasionally with a day or two of freezing weather. But let's get into you. That's enough about me and my love of things. Okay, you just published your book last month. Tell us about that. Why don't we just start right out? And if you happen to have a copy of it, I should have asked you that backstage. If you had copies sitting there you could put up, then let's talk about your book.
Okay, so my book is a collection of short stories titled The Beauty and the Hell of It. And it's about women who are pushing back on expectations about how they should behave. So these are messy and complicated women making decisions that are getting them into trouble. There's themes of grief and loss and mental illness throughout the book. And there's a little bit of a sidelong glance at what I call the loveliness imperative. And what I mean when I say the loveliness imperative is the expectation that women should make themselves appealing to men in everything they do. You know, just sneeze daintily, don't argue, lose that weight, maintain your thigh gap, all of those terrible things and terrible ways of making yourself small to just not rock the boat. So these women are saying no to that, and they're getting themselves in some hot water.
You forgot to mention walk 10 paces behind you off to the right and be quiet.
Yes, that's right.
Everywhere my wife and I go, we're holding hands. So it's kind of, yeah, people talk about it sometimes. But anyway, I noticed on your Instagram channel, it says you write about unlikable female characters. That's kind of a strange way of talking. Tell me about that.
That came from feedback I got when I was starting out. I took some creative writing courses, joined some creative writing groups, and certain people would tell me, I enjoyed your story, Lynda. It was funny, and, the pacing's great, all this, but I didn't like the main character. And I really took that advice to heart. I wondered if I was doing something wrong. And then I started to think about the characters I enjoyed reading. Raymond Carver is one of my favorite writers. And I thought about the narrator in Cathedral, who is just a complete jerk. And I thought, no, I'm doing this on purpose. It's just that the jerks I'm writing are women. And so that wasn't sitting well with certain readers. And I had to make a decision whether I wanted to pursue that or write the way people were telling me to write. And as you can see, I chose to do the latter, and I found an audience for that. There are other women out there who want to read unlikable women, right?
What are 2 or 3 things you learned in that creative writing program you were in?
I learned a lot about craft. So I learned the importance, I guess you would say, of narrative arc. That's something that I really have to go back and look for and pull through in my revisions. I often start with a character and with voice, so that doesn't always get the attention it deserves. But the other thing it taught me is the value and importance of filtering the feedback you get. Feedback from other writers is really important, and it's something you should take seriously, but you also have to be able to evaluate it and decide, do they understand what I'm trying to do? Is this person part of my ideal audience? So I had some maturing to do in that process.
How long did it take you to write the book?
So the stories in the collection actually span 15 years. And then in that space, there were 6 or 7 years where I didn't write anything. They just languished in a drawer. And along about 2021, I took a membership program at Humber Polytechnic. And that's where I finished up the book, rounded out the collection, and revised everything that was old.
So at the beginning of the pandemic, you kind of resurrected your writing, but you were out of touch with writing for a while. What happened?
I gave up because of rejection. Like, I was submitting a lot along about 2012, 2013 to literary journals, trying to build a name for myself. And I was just getting a lot of blanket no's. You don't often get feedback with rejection, so that can become really disheartening. And I was internalizing it as failure at the time. So some of the stories I was writing were quite personal. And every time I got a rejection, I felt it as a loss. I grieved it. I would stop working on what I was doing. And it wasn't until I took the mentorship program at Humber that I learned to reframe my perception of rejection as part of the process, right? Because often rejection isn't personal. Sometimes it's that you don't fit with the magazine. Sometimes it's that you actually fit with that magazine, but they have a theme emerging from the pieces they're curating for that issue, and you're not quite perfect for it. Maybe if you had submitted to them, last season or next time around, that story would have been perfect. So if you're grieving it as a personal loss each time, you're wasting a lot of time, right? You need to be able to take it on the chin and just go forth and resubmit.
You used the word no just a minute ago. It kind of reminded me of maybe a decade or so back. I was in a class doing something, can't remember the details, but they said that most teenagers, by the time they graduate from high school, have heard the word no 18,000 times. And when you're a toddler, no, don't do it. Yeah, I can imagine it's quite a few of them there. It's not quite as many when you're 15, but there's still quite a few. And so the no, we're not taking personal at that point in time in our life. It's just don't do what you're doing. And so we learn and we grow from it. Sometimes we don't. We take it personal and it becomes a problem. But for authors, that's your baby. That's your intellectual property. That's what you spent and you sweated over and you worried about. And somebody says no. That I can see could create emotional distress, and you haven't even begun the editing process yet of them telling you this isn't right, this isn't right. And so but you use the word reframing, and I think it's a great word. Tell us what reframing is, because many of them may not know exactly how to interpret that word.
I think for me, the reframing process was taking it from the idea that this no is permanent. It means forever. It means you've failed. Stop trying, to not yet. It's not, maybe it's not quite right for this journal. Maybe it's not quite the moment for this piece. Like there is some luck involved in this too. Or maybe you sent the piece out and it wasn't quite ready yet. So if you hear no, there's a bunch of questions you need to ask yourself. Like, okay, what's going on here? Why did I get this no? And sometimes your rejection letter will include a little bit of feedback or insight into that. And it's really about being grateful for that no, in terms of helping you move forward in your process and directing you to what questions to ask of your work going forward.
So it's almost as if I put a different hat on. I have my author hat on here, and I say, okay, no, okay. But I take the author hat off. That no stays with that author hat. I still have my own life. The no was over there to that person, the writer. I'm over here doing the rest of the stuff I do in my life. Okay, let me put my writer hat back on again. Okay, now let's see. That was a no. Why was that a no? And so you have to separate your real world from your author world when you start getting some rejections, because they're there for a reason. And as you say, the timing may be the issue, and we never know that. And maybe it may be content, it may not be the quality that they're looking for. But there are reasons things are there. And I think you hit it on the nail. You have to be inquisitive and know, okay, give me some feedback. Tell me what I'm doing wrong or what I'm doing right so I can make it better. Because sometimes just being right, you're here, but you need to be here in order to excel. So I think those are really good points that are there. So you get the book written. How long did it take you to edit it?
The editing process was actually kind of fast and dirty. So I signed, I think, in May 23. And then there's about a year-long interval where I was just waiting in the queue. And then in July of the next year, after I had signed, there was a period of a couple weeks where we did the edits, and that was it, right? So it's very intense then. You have to reevaluate all of this in a short period of time.
Okay, so you got the editing done, the book's ready to go, it's proofed, it's just about ready to publish. Any issues with covers?
No, that was a delightful process. I wasn't anticipating getting to have a whole lot of say in it. I didn't realize that could happen, but I think that's one of the beauties of either being self-published or working with a smaller publisher. And I work with a small traditional publisher in Canada, and I got to spend an hour just talking to this graphic artist about the book, and he sprang ideas. We bounced off each other, and then he came back to me with this lovely image, and it was delightful.
Hold the book up again so the audience can
Yes.
see it.
Okay, so we have a man and a woman in silhouette back to back.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we have the wisps of smoke curling up. And really what I love about this is the clash between the title and the bold colors. It kind of grabs you, right?
Okay, the smoke. I don't understand the smoke.
Oh, there's a lot of chain smoking women in this book.
Oh, that's smoke. Okay, I got you now. I wasn't seeing that part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's not necessarily an unlikable trait. That's reality.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got the book, the cover's done, you're happy, it's ready to go to press. When did you start marketing the book?
Um, May. May is when I connected with Mickey and started doing podcasts to get the word out there about this book, because it went on pre-sale, I think, in the winter.
Okay, by Mickey, you mean Mickey Mickelson with Creative Edge?
Yes.
Yeah, he helps us a lot with a lot of authors on our program. So really good guy.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, so you got the book started marketing. What is your marketing program? Tell us about that.
Mickey is my marketing program. Um, he's made it possible to connect with so many people, not just in Canada, but across the world. That's the beauty of it. For myself, I'm starting out. This is my first book. I haven't cultivated all these relationships with people who have a place in the media, connections to the media. So having an outside publicist was really important to me. And I think if you're indie, that's something to consider. Promoting is a full-time job. Once you have a book out there, you have your own small business. And I'm not a business person, right? I'm a writer. I'm kind of artsy. Bit of a dreamer. So having someone to collaborate with me on that was really important.
So your marketing program is really focused on Mickey doing the background stuff. What social media do you use? How often do you talk about your books and stuff?
I use Instagram and Facebook. Blue Sky a little bit. Blue Sky doesn't get the same engagement from followers, I would say, yet. I still have hope for it because I don't use X anymore. I think Instagram is a great visual, to get the pictures of your book out there, get pictures of quotes, that sort of thing. I find engagement is higher, and maybe it's my demographic. I'm, early 40s, that sort of thing. Facebook is a different demographic, which is also good to reach. And I'm not a regular poster, I have to say. For me, a big part of social media is community. Who else is publishing? Who are you going to shout out? Did you read their book? Did you like it? Are you going to share it? And those are the people who engage with me as well. People I've connected with, never met, but I love to read their books, right?
Did you do any competitor analysis on the field that you're working in with who has the top 20 books, say, in your genre?
Oh, that's a good question. I haven't done any of that. And literary Canadian literature is kind of a small pond. That's what I love also about working with Mickey. He has lots of connections in the States. I like to go onto Amazon.com and notice the dwindling number of my books. Only 3 left in stock. Yay, right? So I haven't done the analysis, but yes, I should.
Usually when I help an author, that's where we start out. Okay, what genre? Let's take a look. Who's there? Maybe you need to go to that that person's website, see, get their newsletter, see what are they doing, because that's a big deal. If they're successful and they're selling 1,000 books a month, maybe that's a clue. And so I think that's a worthwhile thing. AI used anywhere in your writing?
No, I am strongly against AI. It makes me nervous on so many levels. And my big problem, as many people have already argued, is it's built on the work of artists that was stolen, right? It was taken without their consent, without their permission. And that's not okay, right? So ethically, I object to AI. And until that's sorted, I'm not willing to use it as a tool. I appreciate that it's a tool, that you can learn to do things with it. I've heard it's really good at writing headlines. I also freelance. But I also like to use my mind because it's a tool and I don't want to lose, I guess you would say, the sharpness. Writing headlines is tough, right? Like if you're doing a blog and you have to do the deck and that sort of thing, distilling what an article is about is an art. And I don't want to trust AI to do that because I worked hard to build that skill. I'm not going to give it up.
Oh, we're getting ready to go to a commercial break here just in a few seconds, about a minute and a half. But I'd like to follow up a little bit on AI when we come back, because I think there's some areas there just for concern and talking about, because I think a lot of people, and you're absolutely right about your your concerns. But there's some other things we can just chat about and just let the audience kind of know what we think. So let's go to our break and we'll be right back.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to tracycramperkins.com. Tracy Cram Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
red.olaughlin here. We're on the Wise Ones, USA Global TV and Radio Network. And my guest today is Lynda Williams. Lynda, please join me again here on stage. Welcome back.
Thank you.
We were just chatting, getting into the topic of AI. And your comments are very, very similar to many others that are out there. I use AI a lot, but I'm writing nonfiction. And I have about a 2-page prompt that when I started, I say, okay, you are the master researcher on this particular topic. So I tell AI who they are. Then I tell them, this is what I want to know. This is why I want to know it. This is the level of detail. This is where I want you to go find stuff, because I do a lot of stuff out of PubMed and other research publications. And I said, this is my audience. This is what I expect to be able to present. And I want to see flow charts, and I want to see this, and I want to see that. And so when I get done, I pump that all in there, and it gives me something back. And I look at it, okay. And then I say, well, you left this out because their focus is like that, and I want the focus to be like this. And so I do this, and then, okay, let's get, and by the time I get to the 6th or 7th, okay, what about this? And so if I'm talking about, let's say, Alzheimer's, well, what about uric acid? What about lectins? I have to ask it questions because I know part of the answer, but they're not looking in that place to get that answer. But I expect that. But once I tell them that, they go there and I get a whole lot of stuff that I wouldn't get otherwise. So for me as a researcher, it's invaluable. But then I take that and I put that in my own words because it's just data. And so from my perspective, it's not stealing from someone else. I'm getting a report from this National Health Institute, or this other study over here. Okay, here's the extract. I go to look at it. Okay, and so I have the reference. I go back to the original source. So I think there's a lot of good that can happen there. I had one client that wanted a book, 1850s mid-Texas, and they had a vision in their head for a cover. And so I had 5 of them done by AI. And I said, do you like A, B, C, D, or E? And he said, I like C and D. So we took those 2, I sent them to a designer and said, this is kind of what he has in his mind, but he also wants this. And so it clarified a lot of stuff. So I think there's avenues to use AI, but it also depends on where you're at and what you're doing. Because sometimes you may be, let's say, 1850s London. Okay, you can get a certain amount of stuff out of the research, but I think there's a certain value for AI, but you got to realize it's a tool, and that's all it is. But you just can't ask it a question. How are you? Well, you have to say, you are this. And I mean, there's a lot of detail to go into asking. So it's one of those things that I've learned over the last 6 months, 8 months, in order how to use it better. But that's my take on it. Your thoughts?
A couple of years back, I was lucky enough to moderate a panel on AI. And at the time, I really hadn't looked into it at all. And the best thing I took from that panel was one of the panelists' answers to the question, what are people getting wrong about AI? And he said, I think it's the idea that we have a choice. So what he was proposing, that at some point AI will be as ubiquitous as cell phones. You know, some of us held out, right? You know, we said, no, I'm never going to have one. But at this point, there are very few people who don't have a cell phone. And, you know, whatever arguments you had, at some point you ceded them, right?
But AI does give you sources. You have to go check them out yourself. I think just last week here in the United States, there was some, I don't know, New Jersey or someplace, they had filed some legal documents and AI had done all of the filing. Nobody double checked it. They were wrong. They get their hands slapped. They had to go back and refile. So just because it's there doesn't mean it's right. And that's the thing with AI. It's a tool, and you know, you use the wrong tool, you get the wrong result. So, but let's go ahead and move on. Video. You using any videos at all in any of your marketing?
I can't say I've done a whole lot of video. I have one coming out for Cozy Fest. Oh, I think it's All Lit Up. It's just a Canadian organization that promotes small press authors. So I have a reading coming out of that. I haven't used a lot, to be honest. I mean, a lot of my podcasts are also available on YouTube as well as Spotify. A lot of my marketing or promotion has been through podcasts. I would say podcasts are the bulk of my promotion.
Okay, well, let me suggest something maybe for just consideration. Again, AI has a lot of opportunities. Typically I produce a 35 to 55 second video trailer that talks about what I'm going to be talking about this week on my show. And it comes up there, it's 5 or 6 or 7 still photos with the text in front of it, and it's recorded, very professionally done, but it's all AI. And so it's one of those things that, again, it's another tool that we don't think about as authors, but I have not taken that tool yet and used it to market my books, but I'm in that process now of saying, okay, fine, I've mastered the skill, at least my level of skill, to produce videos that I'm happy with, that I can put on Instagram, Facebook, anywhere that I want to put them at, and let the world know this is what's happening. So my challenge to me next is, do I want to pay more than just a free cost of the AI and see what kind of results I get back? But it's a marketing tool. And so again, we're not experts in that area, but for me, I can spend literally no less than 10 minutes, no less than 5 minutes, no more than 10 minutes. And I can produce a 1 minute video that's professionally done, that I think is more than adequate for putting stuff out there in social media. So I don't know that Mickey does that, but it's something that, it's a skill that is easy to learn. Might be something considered down the road. Another area that we talked about backstage was something about finding failure in
Yeah, taking the failure and struggle in life and making it into art, right?
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah, that was huge for me, and it was therapeutic, right? Because some of the stories are very close to home for me. They're fictional characters, but the events are things I lived through in my life. I survived not one, but 2 abusive relationships in my 20s. There was an assault in there, and part of for me, recovering from that and being able to move forward was writing about it. And there is a very satisfying type of vindication in being able to get those stories published and share them with people who might also be struggling with the same kind of difficulty, and who then reach out to you and say, you know, thank you for this. You helped me.
Isn't there some, I want to say it's Japanese, where they take something that's broken and literally reframe it to a degree. It seemed like to me that the standard that I think about is a broken vase, and they took and put gold in there where the cracks are at, and then reheat it, and now all of a sudden you have the broken one, but the beauty is there because of things. So just because it's broken, as you say, we reframe it again using that term from earlier in our conversation. So in your case, there was something destructive that you were able to find some beauty out of, and you mentioned a couple of small areas, but for an author, how does that really change what you do?
For me, those lived events are often a starting point, a springboard. And, I could wish that my life in my 20s had been kinder, that things had worked out differently, that I hadn't made those mistakes. But then what would I have left to write about, right? So I think being a writer, maybe one of the occupational hazards of it is that you can turn all these sow's ears into silk purses. It it's it's a healthy process, I would say. It can be a little bit painful when you're going through it and you're dredging some of that up. But I'm glad I didn't just have a pristine period of life in my 20s where nothing went wrong. I think my writing career is kind of built on all that difficulty.
Okay, so you have adversity, you've learned from it. Uh, I believe that things happen for a reason, and sometimes we don't take advantage of that reason. We may never know the reason, but it still happened. And as you say, reframing it, okay, why was I the only one to whatever the situation was? Or why did I get blamed for something I didn't do? But things happen. And when they happen, we can reach out there, grab a hold of, and never let it go, and it just be a stressor for the rest of our life. Don't forgive, don't no gratitude. Just a lot of things we can do. Or again, it's in here. We can let it go and say, what value can I get out of it? We're talking about wisdom today on the show. So if something happened to me, as my daughter likes to use the phrase, okay, I got lemons, I made lemonade. It's one of those kind of situations. What can you do with that little bit of negativity that's sliced into your world rapidly, but is not necessarily still affecting you today?
Yeah, that transformation of the uglies of life into fiction is art, because I think art is about producing meaning. And you don't have to be producing meaning from stuff that has personally happened to you, but you certainly can. And developing meaning from something that took away your power is a way of reclaiming your power. And I think you can also share that power with other people that those same things have happened to, right?
I think at some point in time I saw on one of your, I think it was a Facebook channel, you have a November 13th flywheel of Skylar K. That's something I'm totally unfamiliar with. Is that reading? What is that?
Oh, I was sharing that. Skylar Kay is a lovely Calgary poet. Her second book just came out, and I wanted to let other people who follow me on Facebook know that they can attend. It's just a local bookstore event, and every month they bring in authors, not just from Calgary, but across Canada. And yeah, it's a great way to get out into the literary community and celebrate your local poets and writers.
Okay. Uh, are you looking at being one of these people featured on that down the road?
That could be a possibility. The next reading I have is in Toronto. My publisher is holding a group reading on December 7th, Kensington Market. So if you're in the Toronto area on that afternoon, come out and you can listen to me and some fellow Guernica authors. And then going into the new year, I haven't scheduled any readings yet, but 2026 is coming fast.
So how many times do you read it out loud with nobody around in order to feel very comfortable doing it in public?
There is a sweet spot with that. I learned the hard way that if I over rehearse, I go too fast. So you always have to remember that other people are hearing these words for the first time. So you have to give them some gravitas, right? But you also have to read the passage enough to know the ins and outs of the punctuation, right? Because those are your road signs. You need to know where you're going to take a breath. You need to know where you might need to pause to let people finish laughing before you start again. So for me, the sweet spot is usually 3 or 4 times in front of a mirror, looking up at those important moments, and then I'm good. If I keep going, I'm digging myself a hole.
Do you have any speaking engagements that you're not reading?
No, not forthcoming. I had a couple panels this summer. There's a wonderful festival called When Words Collide every year in Calgary. So it'll be coming up in August. I think it's 16th, 17th in 2026. I hope to be there again. If you're in Calgary, I highly recommend it.
Yeah. Well, just as you're talking about 3 or 4 times to do it, as a speaker, I do the same thing. But when I'm timing it, I know what I have my outline in my brain. I don't have anything I'm reading, but I go through it and I'm speaking generally my regular speed, a little fast. But I find that if I time myself for 4 minutes, no more than 4.5, that usually gets publicly at about 6.5 to 7 minutes, because there's always things that your brain brings in and you're not aware of your time and your cadence and your pauses. Those are things that are there, and you're always looking for feedback from the audience to make sure, did they not understand that? Maybe I need to go a little bit deeper. And so there is, as you say, a sweet spot. And I think you nailed it very nicely, because you said, if I do it too much, then I get too fast and the reading is not ruined. It's just that you're not focusing on the audience. And I think that's a big takeaway here on the wise ones. The wisdom is we're focused on our audience. That is who we're trying to do it. I learned something the other day. I was talking with somebody actually off of LinkedIn, and he says, your website is designed not for you. It's designed for somebody trying to find you. And I said, okay. And all of a sudden it just, it switched me around, because in my brain, okay, this is my website. This is what I want to show this. But in reality, that's not the case. I do that with my books. I'm very focused on the audience, but for that particular marketing aspect of a website, I wasn't thinking that way. But just part of always listening. We're getting to the end of the show, and I want to make sure that I promised you. How do people reach you? What's going on? So take a moment and tell us.
Okay, so you can find a selection of my stories with links where you can find them online at www.lindawilliams.ca. You can find the book, The Beauty and the Hell of It, available on Amazon.com and Amazon.ca. Or you can go to Barnes and Noble. I think it's available on order there. In Canada, you can go to your local independent or Chapters and Indigo. And if you'd like to follow me on social media, I am available at Lynda_Williams_author.
Audience that'll get this presentation a little bit later on. That's Lynda, Lynda Williams, WILLIAMS.ca for Canada. So Lynda, thank you so very, very much for being our guest today. I learned a lot. I enjoyed our conversation, and I'm glad that we had a chance to talk a little bit about failure, reframing, some things we just generally never talk about on this show. So thank you very much. And I wish you the best, and take care and enjoy the winter up in Canada.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Take care.
Take care. red.olaughlin here. We're wrapping up the Wise Ones on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. Today we had Lynda Williams, and very, very delightful conversation. My next show is called Talking Heads. Last week I introduced the subject of peptides, primarily synthetic peptides, stuff that I'm starting to see a lot of marketing on. I go to, say, Instagram, and all of a sudden it's boomity, 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 boomity. And of course, it's because I'm following certain people. That's the algorithm. It's feeding me back information that I want to see. But I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, I can see some major changes down the road, not necessarily in the next 10 years, but certainly down the road, where peptides may be really the primary solution to a lot of health and medical issues. So anyway, I'm going to follow that up today, talking about how you can bulletproof your health using peptides on Talking Heads, the next show in about 21 minutes. Take care, y'all. Bye now.
Nestled in the heart of the Blue Ridge Mountains, the Horseshoe Farm has always been more than a destination. It's a living, breathing reflection of community, connection, and transformation. Once a humble family farmstead, it has evolved over the years to become a sanctuary for travelers, seekers, families, and friends alike. Originally reimagined by the Turchin family as an Airbnb property, the farm began its journey into hospitality with simple roots, welcoming guests to experience the beauty and peace of the sacred land. As word spread and the vision deepened, the property organically blossomed into a boutique resort, rooted in the values of slow living, intentional experiences, and the magic of gathering. Today, the Horseshoe Farm is a 90-acre experiential retreat that merges hospitality, wellness, and culinary excellence. It is home to the Stable Spa, the Silo Cookhouse, distinctive lodging options, and a curated calendar of events that nourish mind, body, and spirit. Our guest experience is designed to be both grounding and expansive, where the comforts of luxury meet with the simplicity of nature. At its core, the Horseshoe Farm is about transformation of land, of self, and of community. We are proud of where we've come from. We are confident in who we are today and excited for the road ahead. Hello, I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, also known as the Listening Mentor and President and Founder of USA Global TV and Radio. I had the opportunity, the pleasure of attending a retreat at the Horseshoe Farm just recently. I was so impressed with all of the opportunities that were presented to me in this glorious setting, as well as the highest level of customer service, that I've decided to put together a retreat at the Horseshoe Farm in Hendersonville, North Carolina, United States of America, June 3rd through the 6th, 2026. You can expect to have a beautiful time of relaxation combined with learning, community, collaboration. Do consider joining me in this wonderful opportunity to reconnect with yourself, with others, and with nature. For more information, email me at drjacalyn@usaglobaltv.com.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.